Hey, it's Chuck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw, and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm almost late here to the show. Appreciate you guys so much for joining me. Buckeye Huddle Prime Time. Let's get into the business. I just found out that there was a planet discovered in 2022, 100 light years away, that is full of water. It's nothing but water. It's just waves, man. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, the things you find, when you're scrolling through waiting for the show to start. But appreciate you guys so much for joining me. Gonna get to a lot today, including your questions and comments. A big day tomorrow as we get the official schedule release for the Buckeyes. I can't wait. I love this schedule. It wouldn't be surprising if we find like three really difficult. I mean, we know the opponents. We just don't know when we're playing them. Three really difficult games in a row is a possibility with all the difficult games on that schedule. Remember, the 2 byes is over. That was just for 24 and 25. Thankfully, that's done, so we don't got to go through that. I could not stand it, but this actually might be a season where it would be worth it. That was just a result of how the calendar fell with the college football schedule, that we had the 2 byes in 2024 and 2025, but that's over. So a reminder of the big time opponents that the Buckeyes play next year. You have 4 of the traditional 8 blue bloods: Texas, Michigan, USC, and Nebraska. You got 2 of the new bloods in Oregon and Indiana, and a couple of really tough Big Ten teams, Iowa, Illinois. And as we sit here right now, like ranking the most difficult games before we see what order they come in, probably got going to Texas, going to Indiana, Oregon at home, going to USC, Michigan at home, at Iowa, home to Illinois, at Nebraska. Reminder, Iowa was 8-4 last year, almost beat Indiana and Oregon at home. That's like the 6th hardest game on this schedule. It's just insane, man. It's just an insane schedule. But Texas, Indiana, Oregon, Michigan, USC, 5 huge games. Somehow I'm looking at these early preseason rankings, and USC is outside the top 15 in a lot of these polls. I'm not seeing that at all. I'm seeing nothing but improvement for them. Texas, Indiana, Oregon, all top 10. USC could potentially be, and who knows what Michigan's going to be. Their schedule's a cakewalk. We look at the Buckeyes, got a nightmare draw. Michigan's schedule could not be easier for Whittingham in his first year. I mean, it is so easy, but just an absolute gauntlet. And, going to Nebraska, to Memorial Stadium in Matt Rule's 4th year, that's like the 7th most difficult game on the schedule. Hosting Illinois, 7th or 8th most difficult game on the schedule. It's just insanity. It's insanity. There are a lot of games on this schedule that Ohio State could potentially lose. And obviously the order is the order of how, I'm just throwing it out there. Like, here's what the most difficult game sounds like today. But tomorrow when the schedule comes out, the difficulty level will change based on how these games line up. I mean, you could be playing 3 straight games and they go like Indiana at home, Oregon, or Indiana at Indiana, Oregon at home, then out to USC. So like a, 2-game gauntlet, then the 3rd one traveling west to play USC. And all of a sudden that USC game becomes as difficult as the Oregon and Indiana game. It's just wild. I mean, it's so wild, but it's going to test everything that this program is, really, from the top down. And I don't think it could come at a more perfect time. It comes at a perfect time because I think Ryan Day and his coaching staff were kind of outcoached in the final 2 games of the year. And I think they probably do too. And I'm sure that really sticks in their craw, and they can't wait to get redemption on that. And this season could go one way or the other. I mean, it really could. If they're good, they're in the playoffs. If it doesn't go good, they're out of the playoffs. I guess the good thing is it is so tough that you could catch 3 really good wins that could propel you into the playoffs and still lose 3 games and get in. And, if things go bad and they don't make it to the playoffs, I mean, we can get really ready for a whole lot of people saying, you went into the season revamping the defense, getting older, going with the transfer portal guys. You got Jeremiah in his final year, Julian in year 2, second year, 1,000-yard running back, a veteran offensive line that you chose to do nothing with in the offseason. Talent was there on this team. What about the coaching? And there would be a whole lot of people saying, well, Ryan Day had one magical year with his back against the wall in a playoff run in 2024 after losing 2 games in the regular season. And now we're right back to this. Can't win big games. Like, that's what the narrative would be. That's what's coming. And I just love everything about this because it's really just going to test everything from the top down, and it is going to be so exciting. And I hated the 2025 schedule. It was awful. You had this consistent push to just fast forward to the playoffs, which I hate. Fans took this approach. Why would we show it? Why would we play plays? You don't need to play plays. We'll play plays in the playoffs. We'll step on the gas in the playoffs. Like, I don't like wasting away the shortest season in all of sports. Sorry. I want to see my team play the best football they can week in and week out. Difficult to do that when your schedule is such trash. I get it. Not going to be that way in 26, and I love it. But personnel-wise, a lot of changes. Also, a really big coaching change. And I want to talk today about the offensive line and about Arthur Smith and about Tyler Bowen. You win the national championship in 2024. You come into 2025, and you've got coming back your center and Carson Hinsman, Luke Montgomery, Austin Saraveld, Tegra Shabola, 4 guys that just experienced a playoff run against the best of the best competition in the world in college football and in the biggest spots, right? So you're feeling pretty doggone good. And you got to hit the transfer portal for at minimum left tackle, probably another tackle. So they go to the portal, get Ethan Onyanwa, the big dog, the big expensive dog, who, by the way, is at the Senior Bowl in Birmingham this week. You generally got to be a good football player to get an invite to the Senior Bowl. Guy barely played. The guy barely played. And that shows you just how much the NFL cares about measurables. They care about measurables first and foremost, man. That guy's a big, freaky kind of athlete. He's coming. We want to see him in person. We don't care if he couldn't play. It's unbelievable. But he's down there in Birmingham at the Senior Bowl. But you had your 3 interior guys. You needed your 2 tackles. And with Justin Fry still on staff, they brought in Ethan Onyanwa from Rice and Phil Daniels from Minnesota, an Ohio kid from Cincinnati, Princeton High School, comes back to the state of Ohio. Then they lose Justin Fry to the NFL after those 2 guys committed, and Ryan Day hires Tyler Bowen. Tyler Bowen, guy who hadn't coached offensive line in a long time. His most recent position was the offensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. Before that, tight ends coach at Jacksonville, Penn State, and a reputation as a guy that people really like, really great recruiter, great tight end developer. Also coming in to be the run game coordinator with Brian Hartline's offensive coordinating. So rolling into training camp, started to become pretty clear that Phil Daniels maybe wasn't going to be the starting right tackle. And then we had the shocking press conference where Ryan Day says that Austin Saraveld was repping at left tackle, which all, blew us all away. Everybody thought he made an error. I remember somebody gave him the opportunity to correct himself in that press conference, and he doubled down. Yeah, Austin Saraveld at left tackle. And all right, Ethan Onyanwa must be playing right tackle. Okay, good. That's fine. And big props to Tyler Bowen, right? Like, he spotted that Austin Saraveld was going to be a guy that could handle that. And he sure did. I thought he had a really good season at left tackle, and that was a pretty out of the box thought there. So then you think, all right, Ethan Onyanwa is going to start at right tackle, and it ends up being Phil Daniels. So now you got your big money, million guy as your sixth guy, backing up Tegra Shabola, and that didn't even last long. So dude can't play, set it on fire. But the early part of the season, looking at this unit, despite the fact that the guy you brought in for all that money that was supposed to be this, stopgap, stalwart left tackle, you couldn't even use him. And the offensive line looked damn good. The majority of the year, Tegra was inconsistent, but everybody else looked pretty darn good. They looked like they were really gelling. And then you have a couple of bad games. Against Wisconsin, against Purdue, pretty late in the season. And in those games, it kind of showed you what the issues were with this unit, as those teams were doing things that the other teams had not. Ohio State invested a ton of money into the offensive line coaching staff this year, coming into this year, or into 2025, with a new system, with Tyler Bowen basically having two assistant line coaches in Charlie Dickey, Marcus Johnson, who were previously coaching their own offensive line rooms the year prior. That right there was a flex of Ohio State muscle, not quite like having two coordinators that are former NFL head coaches, but that was Ohio State muscle nonetheless. And I watched this setup during preseason practice. Charlie Dickey, Marcus Johnson, each with small groups, Tyler Bowen kind of doing one-on-ones. It looked really good. These guys all getting so much individual attention. And it felt like, man, this is going to be an excellent unit. It seems like all three coaches are on the same page. We heard Tyler Bowen talk about how they got themselves on the same page. And everything looked good until Wisconsin and then Purdue. And they were stunting, they were twisting, and it was clear that these guys could not handle it, gave up something like 10 and 11 pressures to both of them. Then they go against Indiana, who we know now, clearly the best coach team in the country. The execution was flawless from them. They also had the talent that Wisconsin and Purdue didn't have, so they were able to get home. The simulated pressure, the blitz rate, the stunts up front, when you combine all three of those, Indiana did it more than anybody in the country, and they used it to whoop the hell out of Ohio State. And it looked the same way that it did against Purdue and Wisconsin, but Indiana had the athletes to get home more. So the Buckeyes lose that game up front. Then they go play Miami. In Miami, less stunts, less twists. Let's bliss it. They didn't blitz as much, but they had much better players up front. They started Van Sickle for his first start ever in that game. They left him in the entire first half when he was getting absolutely mauled. He had his PFF pass protection grade was a 0 in that first half. Bring in Padilla in the second half. I don't know why in the world it took that long to make that move. That was just one of the many coaching errors in that game, in my opinion. And it wasn't just the right guard that got destroyed that game. Luke Montgomery was terrible in that game, gave up 3 sacks. But as they got into the second half, they got better. Ryan Day kept with his turtle pace. He only got 3 possessions in the second half. And just like that, 2025 is over. And that is the crew at offensive line that they run back with the same offensive line coach. You got the news that Carson, Austin, Luke, Phil, they're all coming back. Now you got Ian Moore, who had one start. And I thought Ian Moore was so good in that one start that he could have potentially been up for, supplanting Phil Daniels at right tackle and maybe moving Phil down to right guard and putting Tegra on the bench in favor of Phil at right guard. Phil kind of struggles in pass pro on an island, but he's a great mauler in run blocking. And it just, his body type even fits perfect for just a road grading guard. And it seemed to me like, all right, maybe they got something here. They didn't go that direction. Ian played good against Miami. But we see the entire transfer portal come and go. And throughout that transfer portal cycle, obviously, it was a wild cycle. I was doing shows every day, a couple times a day, as Ohio State was losing guys we weren't expecting to lose. They were then adding guys rapid fire. and ton of feedback, talked to a ton of Buckeye fans, and the messages as the thing went on were like, okay, that's great. What about the offensive line? Where are the offensive linemen? What offensive linemen are they looking at? And it was pretty clear that what is returning is what they wanted to roll with the whole time. They were never planning on bringing in any offensive linemen. And that was the plan from the beginning. I don't know how everybody feels about this. But I mean, they literally added quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers, defensive linemen, linebackers, a nickel, safeties, corners, a punter, a long snapper, a kicker. They literally added every other position you could add on the team, but a single offensive lineman. It's a bold move. They doubled down on their guys. They doubled down on their coach, though there will be some changes in the run game coming up. But should this come back to bite them? Should it come back to bite them when they added 16, 17 guys and not a single offensive lineman? It is going to look like an unbelievably bad mistake in hindsight, because it is, it's an interesting strategy. Now, I got to be honest. I wasn't someone who was pushing for them to add an offensive lineman. I always thought that, look, I wouldn't have minded. The more competition, the merrier. But I don't think this is a talent issue. I never did. I never thought this was a talent issue across the board. Good offensive lines are talented, old, play together for a long time. And having the core of Hinsman, Austin, Luke, and now adding in Phil, if he comes in and starts year 2, that's 3 or 4 of your offensive linemen returning. These guys are getting older now too. So you can mix it up a few ways with Phil at right guard, Ian, Austin at the tackles, Carson and Luke inside, like any combo of those guys. And we also got to factor in they're another year bigger and stronger because they got an off season to train, which I think sometimes we forget. They don't just get older at offensive line, they get bigger and stronger. And they definitely know what they need to work on, right? They need to work on a lot of things in the classroom. It's in the classroom stuff. Where do your eyes need to be? Where your anticipation when you see this? Like, it's a lot. It's not so much physical, though they did lose some physical battles. Everybody does. It's the confusion. It's when the bullets are flying and they're mixing it up on them that they get screwed up. But there are some people who will say Ryan Day got a little too cute here, hiring an offensive coordinator and giving him the offensive line coaching position when he hasn't coached offensive line in forever with Tyler Bowen. Got a little cute again, doubling down on these guys when you went and add pieces at every other group. And if this does not work, it is going to be very, very bad. It's going to look really bad on him. It's going to be a really bad decision. But this offensive line crew, man, I like them. I like them a lot. And I just got to think maybe it was too many cooks in the kitchen. Maybe it was the offensive line coaching system that didn't work with Bowen, with Dickey, with Marcus Johnson. Marcus Johnson gone now. He's Arkansas with Ryan Silverfield. We don't know if Bowen's planning on replacing him. So we don't know if it's going to be, just him and Charlie Dickey, or if they're going to do another, 2-pack and format it like they did before. But did they make a mistake not adding any starters? Did they make a mistake not adding any depth outside of those 5 presumptive starters? You've also got guys who can play in number 6 and number 7 in Josh Padilla. He can play center or guard. Then you got Gabe Van Sickle, who had a terrible game against Miami, but showed that he could play leading up to that game. He's the bigger of the two, and Padilla's the older of the two. Padilla, a really good high school wrestler. He is a leverage monster, shorter, more compact, really strong, and really knows how to use his leverage. And then outside of those 7, when we look at the depth chart moving down, you got Jake Cook, who is in year 2. And Jake Cook in year 2, I thought he had a really good freshman season. Heard nothing but good things about him. And Carter Lowe. Carter Lowe, a tackle, who now, he's kind of your number 3 tackle. Like, not really, because if, for instance, let's say that starting lineup is the starting lineup they went with, and all of a sudden Austin Sareveld goes down, where you're going to move Phil Daniels out to tackle, and then you're going to move Gabe Van Sickle into guard. So you got 3 guys who are playing in the starting lineup who can play tackle. So one of those guys is your number 3 tackle. But after that, it's Carter. And you got Sam Greer as a true freshman. I've got him passing Deontay Armstrong. That's just what I think is going to happen. Obviously, we don't know any of this. It's just my speculation. And then in green on the bottom there, just all the freshmen coming in, and none of those guys are going to have any role this year. But, you never know. Sam could potentially. And that's what you're looking at. You're a little light on numbers. You want to be about 17, 18. You got 15. So you wanted to keep a couple of them. I think they definitely wanted to keep Justin Terry, who was the kid from Pickerington who transferred in the spring portal from West Virginia and quickly was making a good impression. Like, they kind of had a plan for him. And all of a sudden he's gone just like that. I don't even remember where he went. If anybody knows, let me know. But that's what we're looking at for the offensive linemen. But things will be a lot different under Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith, a former NFL offensive line coach. Tyler Bowen, a former NFL tight ends coach. Arthur Smith, also a former NFL tight ends coach. Both of these guys played offensive line in college. Arthur at North Carolina, Tyler Bowen at Maryland. Both offensive coordinators, both run game guys. I mean, they're just a couple of big meatheads, and I think they're going to get along swell, and they certainly need to. But Arthur Smith, in his run game, a little bit different the way he likes to operate. When we look at Ohio State back in 2021 and 2022 and prior under Ryan Day, primarily very heavy zone run team. In 2021, 74% zone, 2022, 74, 23, 60. And then in 2024, when Chip came aboard, dead even between zone and gap scheme. Then in 2025 with Bowen, just 44% zone. So Bowen leans in to gap schemes. Arthur Smith, his run game predicated on zone runs, wide zone. I mean, he wants vicious athletic linemen who are getting out on their horse, and he wants a running back with good vision who will go wide and then get his foot in the ground and get vertical in a hurry. There's a lot of people who lamented Ryan Day's stretch to the boundary in the stretch run game. It can be very effective. And this is Arthur Smith. This is who he is. This is how he runs the ball. And when we look back to his teams in the NFL in 2021 to 2025, we're talking 75% zone, 75% zone, 67, 79, 66. I was able to find Arthur Smith in his initial Zoom call to the Atlanta Falcons coaching staff when he first took that job. And he goes over basically everything Arthur Smith, his beliefs, his philosophies. It all sounds really good. He really likes simplicity and execution. He likes repetition. He likes running multiple different concepts out of the same formation. It's simple stuff executed at a high level. There are quite a few film breakdowns that I was able to find too, of people showing him running the same formation in multiple different concepts and just getting the defense so screwed up with it. It's kind of fun to watch. Guy's pretty impressive. He's pretty impressive. I'm not a huge NFL watcher, so I wasn't, I'm not familiar with what this coordinator does in the NFL. I really like his game. And his offenses in Atlanta and Pittsburgh really kind of summed up the way he plays, man, the way he wants it played. He likes to get his quarterback out on bootlegs, get them easy throws, which, as you know, is conducive to the skill players he's had, tight ends, right? He's not had a lot of big time wide receivers. But when we talk about, when we talk about the tight ends, this guy sure loves some tight ends. He loves some tight ends. And the addition in the portal of Hunter Helsing from Northwestern and Mason Williams from Ohio University are turning out to be like on my list. I made a list of the most consequential additions. These guys have shot way up that list because Arthur Smith's percentage of heavy personnel is outrageous. It's outrageous. He had 1 year where he was in 12 and 13 personnel or 21 and 22 personnel. So basically 78% of the season, this dude was in 21 or 22, 12 or 13 personnel, which is, it's wild. It's really wild. That means what, 22% of the year, this guy had 3 receivers on the field, just 22% of the year. And that was his highest heavy personnel year, but it's consistently high. 13 personnel nonstop. As a matter of fact, 13 personnel, he was first, second, third, and second in 4 consecutive years in the league. That's where his team ranked in the amount of 13 personnel that he ran. So we're talking 1 wide receiver on the field a lot. And while we're sitting here talking about like, who's going to be that 3rd wide receiver? Is it going to be Brandon Inniss? Is he going to be able to hold off Kyle Parker? Is Devin McEwen going to play over JJ before, or next to across from JJ before Chris Henry? Like, we may be jumping the gun a whole lot here because we may not be seeing a lot of those guys. I don't know, man. It might be a lot more like Hunter Welsing, Mason Williams, and Nate Roberts with Jeremiah Smith than Hunter Welsing, Jeremiah Smith, Chris Henry Jr., and Kyle Parker. Now, it is perfectly reasonable to say this guy just never had this kind of wide receiver talent, and that's what it was. And, you know, I get that, but when you run like base 12 personnel, and that's pretty much all you do forever for your whole game, and your whole running game is kind of predicated off of that, you know, he's a talented guy and he can change if he wants to, but I don't think we generally see people change that up when that's who they are at their core. And 12 personnel wasn't bad for Ohio State last year. It's the 13 and the 14 that was. The 12 personnel last year gave you the addition of Max Clare over Brandon Inniss, and Max was just a better receiver, straight up. So it wasn't really your traditional 12 personnel. Like, this 12 personnel is going to look different. Like, receiving wise, though, you know, Hunter Welsing, Mason Williams, these guys are not going to be better receivers, either of them, than Brandon Inniss or Kyle Parker in the slot. And that's who one of those guys are coming in for. But I did dig a bit deeper on Hunter Welsing and on Mason Williams, because as the guys were coming in kind of fast and furious, and spent a ton of time on these tight ends, I didn't expect we were getting an offensive coordinator who was Mr. Tight End. So I didn't put a ton of time into that. I got to be honest. Broke down all the guys, not those two. Hunter Welsing is really something. I mean, this is a dude who did not play until year 6 at Northwestern. Medical red shirt, COVID year, regular red shirt. And he comes to Ohio State year 7, having played just 1 year. Go watch this kid's highlights. I mean, he's bigger than Max Clare, but he makes a lot of impressive catches. I mean, a lot of it, really good body control. There are some parts of it that kind of look similar to watching Max Clare's Purdue film last year coming out of the portal. The dude's really talented. And Mason Williams, bigger, a little bit better of a blocker, also can catch, but he's a big lumbering dude. Hunter Welsing, by the way, had his best game of the year last year against Michigan, which I love. So I'll break those guys down a little bit more when we do our tight end show. And I got some numbers to share about those two. It's interesting. They're like almost identical on every number. But then you add them with Nate Roberts. Talented guys, man. Talented guys. But they're never going to be as talented as those wide receivers. And when it comes to running an offense, yeah, I want to run the ball great. I want to run the ball great. And I think that Arthur Smith is going to really elevate the running game. But when you talk about these tight end heavy offenses, like, programs that do this are generally programs that do it similar to Arthur Smith in the NFL because they don't have the wide receivers. programs like Iowa, who can't get that kind of skill. They don't have the quarterback and the wide receiver play. So they supplement because it's easier to get these tight ends that can do that. And it's easier throws for the quarterback. Like, that's generally the programs that do that. When you have the option to have mega star wide receivers, doing that by choice is not usually the choice that you make. A little bit limiting. Anyway, I think that the three biggest stories so far this offseason, obviously the Arthur Smith hire. Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator, is huge. The second one to me is the entire pivot in the portal strategy. That might be number one. The entire pivot in the portal strategy that basically took a lot of young prospects on the defense and traded them in for veterans, kind of signaling that this is going to be a yearly thing where they will be replacing starters with old dudes out of the portal, and signals to us that we need to start thinking more of an annual build, less looking 2 and 3 years out with a particular guy because we have no idea if he'll be here. Also means you need to get your young guys on the field early, so we can look forward to seeing that, which made me think that not just that, but the way the season ended, that in retrospect, Ryan Day may look at the 2025 season and say, you know what? I leaned in a little too hard on the slow play. I leaned in a little too hard on 8 possessions a game. And what did it get us? Nothing. It got us when we went to step on the gas. It wasn't there because we played that way the whole year. And my thought was we would see him change that a bit, add more plays, more snaps for younger guys, add in some tempo, and less tight ends, less heavy personnel. And everything about this offensive coordinator hire screams he's doubling down on that. And that's interesting. I don't know how you play a lot more of these younger guys when you're still going that direction. But it doesn't mean 100% that's the way he's going. It's just the way it kind of looks, kind of feels that way. But those are the two biggest stories. I think the third biggest story is the fact that they did not address a single position on the offensive line. Not a single one. You lose Tegra to the portal, which I don't think anybody's boo-hooing about. I mean, he would have been, that's a fantastic backup if you can have him as a backup. And didn't add anybody. Not even the kid that was coming in to visit from Dartmouth. They didn't even add him. So there you have it. Now, there is some updates going on at the shoe that I've not talked about. Big money being spent. So for next season, with a $6.5 million budget, scoreboard in the north end zone, that's the small scoreboard that was last updated in 2009. The B-deck video boards will also be replaced. And then at the Woody, they're going to be replacing the interior and the exterior audio system, as well as the video board inside the Woody. And then in 2027, they don't have approval for this yet, but they'll be going to the board to ask for approval for a $22 million budget to do the south, the big scoreboard, and the ribbon boards that go all the way down. And that's going to be cool. That's going to be cool to get. That scoreboard is like, it doesn't even work well half the time. But the ribbon boards that go down the sides, those look just kind of, I like the way they look. I like it. You know, when you went into the Tennessee game in 2024 was the first game that we got to see those red LED lights, and man, it was so cool. But, you know, all this stuff is predicated on having night games, which we don't have a lot of fun night games. But the ribbon boards allow them to sell, you know, higher quality graphic advertisement, which is great. I'm not someone against them making money. I want them to make money, as much money as they can. I just have limits on how far I think you should go with that. I don't think all money is good money. Some should be left on the table. You know, a Michelin star restaurant does not serve you dinner with plastic silverware because it'll save money. Some things are about your image and about your brand. And some of us have lines certain places. That's all. That's all I'm saying. They're also going to be replacing the scoreboard in the shot. That was last replaced in 2022. They are not really making it any bigger. I'm sorry, 2008 is when that was last done. They're not making it any bigger because I guess the limitations for other events they have in the shot don't really allow them to make it bigger. And that is a $6.5 million project. So quite a bit cheaper, but it's I don't know, man. A lot of people very irritated. A lot of people very irritated about the shot. A lot of people hate that place. They just can't stand it as a basketball arena. I mean, especially when you compare it to the perfection that was St. John's. They've always hated it. I don't think there's anything that anybody at Ohio State could do to that arena that would make people receive it well. And now it's getting about 8,000 fans a game. I think last year it averaged about 9,000 fans a game. And of course, it is the size of an NBA arena, so it looks terrible. What do? Do you start tarping over seats like you are UCLA playing at the Rose Bowl to make it look less embarrassing? I don't know. Way too big. Certainly seems like it was poorly planned. And I've never watched a basketball game at the Shot, so I really can't weigh in. But I do know this. I trust Buckeye fans. And if that's what they say, I'm with them. Anyway, let's get to the comments and see what our friends have to say today. Emily says his special teams coordinator is incoming from Notre Dame. Well, if he's from Notre Dame, he must be great, right? What's up there, Mr. Pettigrew? How you doing, buddy? Sue, what's up? How you doing? Sue's watching her Dukies. Sue is a Duke basketball fan. Thanks for popping in. Are we going to a 2014 playoff? So I just did a video about that on Sunday over at Chuck on Bucks. You can watch the full breakdown of everything that's going on with that, the fight about it. But the answer is no, not now. In 2026, we are rolling into the 12 team again because they could not come to an agreement. Tony Petitti and the Big Ten want the 24-team playoff. The SEC wants a 16-team playoff with a 5-11 format. And Tony Petitti was basically like, tell you what, I'll agree to your six. Did I say 16? They want a 16, 5-11. Tony said, I'll agree to your 16 if after 2-3 years you give me my 24, which is an extremely bad faith argument. And this is all Tony. This is all Tony. Tony's terrible. I can't stand him. Joe believes that this is a bad hire. You talking about Art, Joe? You think Art's a bad, or are you talking about Tyler Bowen? My man here said the same thing. Please tell me who he is, Joe. Joe misses Brian Hartline. Joe doesn't like the offensive coordinator from the Steelers. RKA says the Big Ten wants 24 because they constantly rank Big Ten teams under 15, even if the record is the same as other conferences. That is not the reason, brother. Just go watch my video if you want to know the real reason. That is definitely not the reason. Tony Petitti is after one thing and one thing only, and it is a set of play-in games that add a new revenue stream. I ordered my Juckeyes shirt with Ian Moore's number on the back. Can't wait for it to arrive. Yeah, Sue, that is a depressing stat. I don't know which one you're talking about, but there was a couple of Happy Buckeye wants to cheer me up. The Arthur Smith hire does not necessarily mean more slow play. Maybe Ryan Day looked at their run game and decided that's what needed the most improvement. Absolutely. Does not necessarily mean that. It doesn't. Does look like that, though. You're with me there. Like it does kind of look like that a little bit, right? A little bit. Maybe I'm just scared about it. But honestly, and Woody's makes a good point here. With Arthur Smith, do we see a featured multi-purpose weapon like what he did with Cordero Patterson? Legend Bay is a perfect weapon to use like that. A guy who can even throw the ball out of the backfield. But no, listen, there's a ton for me to love about Arthur Smith, especially after that hour I just watched of him just talking about his philosophy. Like, this is a guy everybody's going to love. I love dudes who are about execution, simplicity, making it easy on young guys to execute. When you got talent and you rep over and over and over and over again, and you just play sleight of hand with the same formation over and over again, you're running different concepts. Like, it's the simplest way to trip people up. It's the simplest way to get your players confident in what they're doing over and over again. And I love it. There's a lot to really, really like about him. And ultimately, I do like the hire. I really like the hire. What gives me pause and it's just the one thing. It's just about Ryan Day. It's just about the philosophy of what he leaned into in 2025. I'm just hoping that this doesn't mean he's leaning into it. Like, if he were to come out and say, no, I'm not doing that, man, I'd be on cloud 9 about the hire. If he came out and said, oh yes, absolutely, that's the way we're running it again, I just think it's the wrong direction. You know what I mean? I just do. Will there be a spring game? Has it been announced? I do believe there will be. Yeah, Sue is referring to the 78% heavy set. So that was just 1 year. That was just 1 year that he was that high. But yeah, he's high. Listen, I texted Dave Biddle today. I was listening to Dave this morning, and he was saying he needs Art to shave that stash. I love the stash on Art. I think Art wears the stash fantastically. You know, there are some people whose face is fit for a stash. I've seen him with it and without it. Better with it. Keep the stash. Any man who can unironically wear a stash and pull it off, wear that stash with pride. Keep the stash. I'm vote keep the stash. 444 Chroma says anyone is better than Hartline. He ran for the door immediately. Couldn't finish one season as the OC. You sound bitter. You sound angry. Zani548 says, so Tony Petitti is why Joel Klatt and Urban Meyer are pushing for the play-in games. There's nothing wrong with the play-in games. Here's the situation. The play-in games with 16 teams in a 4-4-2-2-1-3 format are perfect. I love them. The problem is he wants them so bad, he's willing to go to 24 teams to get them. And 24 teams means we are now giving away a chunk at the end of our regular season where all the top teams are already in the final 2-3 weeks. And you are now trading the excitement of watching those teams play down the end for the payoff of teams like Arizona getting in the playoffs. And then that's going to be our payoff is the first round matchup of Ohio State and Arizona. That's not a good payoff. I don't want to give up the exciting games at the end of the regular season for a first round that includes trash teams at the back end of the top 25. That's not a quality payoff. But I do like the play-in games myself personally. I thought the 4-4-2-2-1-3 was a great strategy. But yeah, honestly, guys, I laid this all out in that show over the weekend. If you want to go watch it, Tony Petitti, Greg Sankey, and the entire situation here, and where was the lie about Heartline? No, I'm very irritated with the way it all went down. Very irritated. Here's why. Love Brian Hartline. Not the nicest guy, but, love what he's done. He's a Northeast Ohio dude. But I don't know the conversation Ryan Day had with him when he promoted him to play calling. However, when Urban Meyer hired someone, give me your word you're going to stay for 2 years. Why? because year one, I'm teaching you. Year two, that's when I get the benefit. So Ryan Day spent all year teaching him, only for him to bail on him at the worst damn time of the year and potentially derail a national championship. Honestly. So yeah, I'm bitter about it too. I'm bitter about it. Yeah, I am. Just what it is. Can't change the way I feel. Not going to yell and scream at him or be mad at him, but I'm bitter at the way it all went down. And, you know, that's what happened. You weren't thinking about it like that, huh? No, it's true. But, you know, when he felt he deserved it, and that's a tough thing for a leader when you feel somebody deserves it, but you also know that if I hire him, I'm making more work for myself. It's tough. He deserves it, but if I hire him, now I got to go and go through this again after having a guy like Chip where I don't need to worry about anything. Again, a huge advantage with Arthur Smith. He doesn't have to worry about anything. He can spend as much or as little time as he wants in there, put his own twist and spin as he wants. Or he could say, Arthur, do it all. I don't talk to me Tuesday about the game plan, and we'll go practice Wednesday and we'll tweak some things if we need to, but I don't really want to hear about it. That's not Day's style, but he could do that if he wanted to. And let's not forget last year also with promoting Heartline, he also had to bring in Tyler Bowen as the run game coordinator, first year run game coordinator for him. And then he had to merge them together. It's a huge undertaking that he had to take. And his payoff as the head coach was year number 2, where he got to step back and enjoy, all right, now I'm the CEO again. He didn't get that. Makes me salty. Heartline can't control the timing of the coaching carousel. I get it. But damn, did it suck. It just sucked. If we finish 12th and Notre Dame gets in, the Fringe will want Tony out. 16 is perfect. No buys. I definitely agree with the no buys. Absolutely. There are a couple formats that have like even so 16 you could do it perfectly with no buys, or you can do it where 1 and 2 get a buy, and it's silly. Make it an even Steven bracket. You don't need any buys. But anyway, all right, friends, I do appreciate you. I did want to let you know that now that we are in the off season, I'm going to change the show. Instead of Monday, Wednesday at 8, it's going to be Monday, Thursday, because it just, without as much news coming out, that extra day of news cycle just kind of helps space out the week a little better. So the next show will be on Thursday at 8 p.m. Of course, I'll probably have a couple shows from now to then over on Juck on Bucks. But please do like the show. Please subscribe here at Buckeye Huddle, where we do our very best to pump out as much quality content as we can to you. You can join us, of course, over at BuckeyeHuddle.com and join the Buckeye Huddle board, presented to you by, I don't know, man. Tom says all this stuff, but you'll hear it from him if you watch one of those shows. Anyway, I do appreciate you guys very much. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon. Chuck out.